Yo, there's something beautiful about Bearcats basketball. High flying.
Kenyon with a jam.
Shot denying.
Miles rejected.
There's just an energy that comes with the Cats. A rich history built on toughness.
And Mick Cronin looks like he wants a technical.
A bring-your-own-lunch pail mentality. For a long time, UC was the hunted.
Not fair that we couldn't lose.
I think it's time the Bearcats do a little hunting of their own.
Once y'all done with them, send them to me, man. You know what I mean? We can put them on the court. Keep that Bearcat thing going.
I am fired up.
Takes it all the way. Oh! It's going to be Little.
I wonder how Steve Logan would be over in Afghanistan or somewhere. I bet he'd be pretty poised. He just does not get rattled.
Van Exel, he'll cut it loose. Watch out. Stevenson cuts it back. Oh! Kilpatrick outruns everybody. Johnson, the exclamation point.
We've been dealt the king of heartbreak over and over again.
Rozier. Smith and
Everything they worked for was undone on one play.
But I see the light. The Cats are back. Lukosius, open three. Got it! Oh, baby! Welcome to the only live Bearcats postgame show on YouTube. This is Chatterbox Bearcats.
he's back! Welcome back. Welcome back.
What is the good word, everyone? Houdini, we have the champagne ready to pop. Cincinnati Bearcats' first two-game Big 12 winning streak in the regular season in school history. Welcome back, ugly basketball. I welcome you into my life. A win is a win. Disgusting one. 67-60, but the Bearcats do show some signs of life with some very good runs throughout this game. A 16-0 run that broke it open. Arizona State gets back into the game, but Cincinnati does win at 67-60. Storylines of the game, multiple players playing well in the same contest. Dillon Mitchell, 14. Simas Lukosius, 10. Jizzle James snaps out of a slump with 11. And Dan Skillings has 12 points in the game. The other storyline, Cincinnati in transition looked good. Arizona State in transition did nothing. Chuck Walter, Houdini, this Chatterbox Bearcats. We go live after all the games. You can find the audio podcast version wherever you get your audio podcasts. And if you're watching us on YouTube right now, hit that subscribe button, hit that like, and hop in the comments. We need the Bearcat faithful in the comments breaking down a two-game winning streak. Houdini, how the hell are we, my friend? Welcome to the show. Let's talk some Cincinnati Bearcats.
I'm feeling much better after seeing that. I know I said after the Colorado win, I actually came back even more disgusted by this team. I saw some signs of life in this team. Granted, it was a wild swing that we saw. I mean, the first 4 minutes, thank God that UCF Houston game, when they reviewed things for about 20 minutes, the last minute took another 30 minutes, so we couldn't watch it. I was like, here we go again. We had 0 points, I think, for the first 4 minutes.
Let me chime in here because we need to see some staggered start times. We complained about this, I think maybe a football game, maybe Colorado UC football, where they were showing this Miami game and it was a 28-point game. We're like, can we switch to it? The difference was today was an incredible game. Houston somehow takes down UCF down the stretch. But yeah, they flipped to the UC game with 15 minutes to go in the first half, and the score was 4-2. I was thinking, oh my God, we're going to do it again.
It did not look good. And that's where ESPN Plus is actually a benefit there, because you can watch any game, doesn't matter what's going on in the other ones. So it kind of screwed us being on CBS Sports Network.
We missed nothing.
Whatever. Either way, yeah, you missed nothing. I'm glad it happened. I really am, because I would have probably broke my TV off and ripped it off the wall. But we went on a 16-0 run, man. 16-0 run, and then I think Arizona State went on a 9-0 run, and then we closed the half with a 12-2 run, Chuck. When's the last time a Cincinnati sports team closed a half well? Probably since the Bush administration. I mean, that never happened. So there was a lot of signs that I saw today where I go, listen, it wasn't clean. It wasn't pretty. We almost blew it at the end. Don't know how to beat a full court press. Wes, let's work on that. But I saw some signs of life. So I'm feeling a lot better than I did even after that Colorado win on the road.
Well, the biggest thing is Jizzle James, when he can get to that mid-range and, quite frankly, just get good looks, and he did a lot of it in transition today, he's a force in transition. Like, he is hard to stop. I said before the season, I think this guy has NBA potential. I think it's coming sooner rather than later. At least I thought it was coming sooner rather than later. Let's get real. He hit a very tough stretch there where I said he was mentally broken. But guess what? As Batman said, why do we fall? It's to get back up. The he's back that I ran at the beginning of the show, it's Jizzle, it's Simas. Two guys that were consistently combining 1 of 17 from the floor, go 9 of 19 today and combined for 21 points. That's what this team needs. Lukosius 4 steals defensively. Dillon Mitchell led the way offensively with 14 points. He was awesome, man. In transition, just doing it all. There was a play there where he had like an open 7-footer, and instead of just pulling up and taking it, he just kind of bruised his way to the bucket, used his size, length, and athleticism to finish at the rim. One thing I will say about Mitchell, who is 6 of 10 from the floor and hit 2 of his 3 free throws in the game today, he clearly does not have a right hand. I don't know if you've noticed this, but whenever he goes up on the right side, he makes the shot a lot harder than he needs to, and it's an awkward left-handed shot every single time. So that's something that is probably limiting his offensive development, is the fact that based on everything we've seen, he has 0 right hand.
Hey, I will say this, though. He actually had a back-to-the-basket move and scored. I think he might have had 2 tonight, 2 today. So if we can get anything interior-wise from Dillon Mitchell, because he does everything on the floor. I mean, the amount of steals that he has and gets out in transition is ridiculous. I don't know if they didn't show the replay on that one that I thought he was going to dunk, LeBron style. And I think he got fouled, but he just totally whiffed a layup, essentially. But he was awesome. He was everywhere. But, yeah, this team goes where Simas and Jizzle James are going to take us. And Dan Skillings did not have a great outing, right? He was 3 of 11, 0 of 3 from 3, so the Steph Curry wore off in him. Still finished with 12. He had some really, really bad attempts as well. But if just seeing Simas and Jizzle James put the ball, and I think Jizzle he was over dribbling. They were calling him Dribble James for a while. And I think Avery Johnson said he's Sizzle James is what they were calling him. So him putting the ball in the basket, and he's not dribbling as much as he was earlier in the season, at least tonight. He was, doing his 4 or 5 dribble move and getting that mid-range jumper off, and it looked great. It looked great. So Jizzle James and Simas playing well, that's a recipe for us winning games.
One of the things that I've always wanted to see in a Big 12 game, because we saw it in spurts last year, like against Georgia Tech and against some of the bottom feeders, maybe Florida Gulf Coast. But I've just been waiting for that run that Cincy would go on, and it would be capped off with a CJ Frederick 3. And I don't know whether it was the 12-2 or whether it was the 16-0 run, because Betsy also had a 3 that was big in one of those runs. But CJ, to cap off a really big run, finally banged in a 3-pointer. Tell you what, it's just nice seeing him on the floor. I don't know how he's been buried for so long. And the easy answer is, 1, Connor Hickman. They brought him in to kind of steal CJ's spot. And 2, CJ's been hurt pretty consistently and finally looks healthy out there. But he just seems like a smart basketball player, man. The stat sheet doesn't really do it justice. But I think with Wes playing him, in the final 4 minutes of this game, I think it goes to show you that CJ has kind of earned himself minutes in this rotation. Whether Hickman, becomes an available character at some point for this team, I don't know. But I feel good with CJ out there. I mean, he's not as bad a defender as people give him credit to be. He knows where to be on the floor. He helps you space. He's good.
He hasn't been really. It's the defensive side of the ball that you're worried about with CJ Frederick, and he hasn't been extremely exposed on that side of the ball at all. Really, I mean, he's always going to be a little bit of a mismatch no matter what. But the offense is so much more fluid. Like you said, he understands good basketball. He knows spacing. The ball doesn't stick. It moves around a lot more. And regardless of, maybe he's not the penetrator that he used to be driving to the basket, you have to have a guy on him essentially anywhere close to 3-point line. So the spacing on the floor is just much better. So I think CJ Frederick's absolutely earned himself a rotation spot. And I could see 20 plus minutes a game for CJ Frederick, going forward, because we can't make threes. We went 5 of 22. He had 2 of them. Right. And I don't even know how many minutes he played. It wasn't a ton. He had 2 of our 5 threes. And that's a lethal weapon to have off your bench, and a guy that's been playing college basketball for 10 years. He knows how to play the game. So I really love what I saw from CJ Frederick. And we kind of buried him too. We're like, we don't think he's going to be in the rotation. Well, he's back, and I love it.
Guess what? This is a reactionary show. It's what fans do. It's why people join the Chatterbox Bearcats postgame shows instead of other shows out there that are, breaking down hedge ball screens and drop coverage. We're reacting to what we see. And in past games, we've seen the Cats look awful. There's still a lot to be said about this team. I mean, we didn't come through after today's game thinking that the Cincinnati Bearcats are back to being a top 15 team in the country, but it's back-to-back wins. You give them credit where it's due. They won, not shooting the ball excellent. They won, not out-rebounding Arizona State. Let's start there, because Arizona State takes down Cincinnati 42-33 on the glass. That was kind of Cincy's bread and butter a season ago. It was just out-rebounding everyone. Today, only 9 offensive rebounds for Cincy, 16 offensive rebounds for Arizona State, 6 of them grabbed by Jaden Quaintance. This was a top 10 recruit in the country. This is the type of talent that Cincinnati wants. Bobby Hurley's getting it out in Arizona State, or out in Tempe. The issue is Arizona State's 1-4 in the conference too. Cincinnati has now, or 1-5. Cincy's now 2-4 in the conference. Arizona State's getting better talent than Cincy, it appears. Cincy beats Arizona State. We seem to be in a better spot for the NCAA tournament. I would have to imagine that Hurley is over there on the hot seat. A, and B, what'd you think of Quaintance?
Quaintance was awesome. I mean, I know he's a highly touted recruit. He's had a good year so far. I think he's like 17 years old too. That's a grown-ass man. He is a beast, and we struggled against him. I don't even know how he sees with his hair. It's like literally covering his face, and he still went 6 of 10 with 15 and 14 boards. So, I mean, that's one of the most imposing bigs that we've seen all year. I mean, Hunter Dickinson and KJ Adams and those guys. But yeah, he's a very good player. And Arizona State, they get talent. It's not hard to recruit to Tempe. I mean, hell, take them out to a couple bars down there with the palm trees showing. Most kids are going to say, absolutely, where do I sign? So it's probably a little easier to recruit at Arizona State, but we're in a much better spot. And Bunker Boys' last bracketology actually had them on their second 4 out. So they're right on the bubble, kind of right next to us as far as the projections of the NCAA tournament. We'll see how that turns out. I mean, they only had 7 guys playing today. And then BJ Freeman went out and pulled a Paul Pierce. He got carted out and then just came back within 2 minutes. So that was interesting, but they only had 7 guys. So they got a pretty short roster right now, but you still like to see UC win a home game, against a solid team. It should have been, the fact that we didn't cover the spread is outrageous. I mean, I think we had it at 17 points, ended up coming down to the last couple of minutes. So, but hey, at the end of the day, a win's a win. Back-to-back Big 12 wins. It's a good spot to be in.
If you were smart, you would have done the emotional hedge and taken the Bearcats, or taken the Sun Devils rather, at the +10 that it started out as, and then you'd be celebrating a paycheck and a comfortable Bearcats 7-point win, because in no situation should Cincy be given anyone in the Big 12, any circumstance, 10 points in a given game. It's just an offense that has proved they're not going to wax many teams off the floor. And when they do, because they go on a 16-0 run, usually at some point the law of averages comes back, which it did in the second half with, I think, 8 minutes to go in the second half. Cincy had been on a 7-minute scoring drought without a field goal or something. But if I were to ask you, Houdini, Hudson Klauke, by the way, you could find him on Twitter at Barry Keene. My name, Chuck Walter. You could find me at Charlie Walter TV on Twitter. We're breaking down Bearcats games. We have the post-game spaces during road halftime shows, and also just miscellaneous content that you can find us on. And if you want to join the show, it's a call-in show. We put the link in the chat. Scroll up, find that link. you'll pop in backstage and we will get a little Q&A going. If I were to ask you, though, Hudson, how many fast break points Cincy had compared to Arizona State, what do you think the final number was?
Oh, I would say 14-2.
Close. It was 25-2. Cincinnati won in fast break points. I said this at the beginning of the year. I thought Cincy was going to take down teams solely off. And for a minute there, they kind of bought me into them being a decent shooting team when Betsy and Hickman and Frederick were all knocking down shots at the same time. And then you see Ravon as your 12th man off the bench, knocking down a three, and Page shows a little ability to pop. I'm like, all right, they're going to get easy shots. They're long, so they're going to finish a lot of dunks, and they are going to hit enough threes to be a respectable shooting team, which is why, like 8 games into the season, they had the number 1 field goal percentage in the country. But we accepted at some point that this team was going to muck it up, that they were going to win ugly games, and quite frankly, they were going to win games that maybe they shouldn't win. And so far, we haven't really won those, but we've been in some games that we shouldn't have been in, like the Arizona game, due to this team getting out in transition and just being everywhere defensively. How much better is this team to you when they get out and run? Why are they able to get out and run? Is it just the fact that they turned them over 14 times? Is it a style change? Like, what do you see that gets Cincy in the mindset to get out and score in transition as compared to the slow-paced half court that we've seen so much?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the opponent. Arizona State in particular has been prone to turn the ball over quite a bit. And that's where we thrive. And you got guys in the passing lanes like Dillon Mitchell and Dan Skillings. You got Day as an on-ball defender who is just, he's crazy as far as him defending the basketball. So when you're playing a team like Arizona State, you're going to get more transition looks just based on the way that they throw the ball around. And earlier in the season, at least, I didn't see it tonight, Wes would literally look at Jizzle and Day, and he'd be doing this, slow it down. I'm like, for what? Slow it down for what? We can't score in the half court to save our lives. Get the ball running, get a quick shot. Now that we're starting to hit a couple of shots, I mean, we shot, 42% from the field? It might be the first time we've eclipsed 40% in the last 6 games. But now that we're seeing a little more life from Simas and Jizzle, I don't know if it's 100% necessary to always just sprint the ball down the court. But yes, this team is going to thrive in transition. They need to continue to try to do that and get the ball running 100%. That's a recipe for W's for this roster.
Recipe for W's with this roster is play incredible defense and hopefully knock down some free throws in the process. 12 of 16 from Cincinnati, 75%. Drastically an improvement upon their season average, where they've just been shooting like 58% for the season. It seems like, without looking up the specific stat there. How much of this is mental? How much do you think Cincy's broke through this mental barrier? How much of this is just bad teams in the Big 12? And will we find out against Texas Tech? We will. They demolished Arizona in their game today. Texas Tech's good. Toppin's going to be a force down low. This is a big test, man. UC needs quad 1 wins, everyone. That's the storyline of the season right now. No really bad losses, kind of some whatever wins. But our bubble is going to be popped if they can't win one of these games. And Texas Tech at home you got to win it.
You do. You absolutely have to win it. We're going to have plenty of opportunities to get those. But I can't say it enough, though. It's Simas and Jizzle. This was kind of a get-right game. You're playing against a solid team, but a team that you should beat at home. No question about it. Arizona State, I think they're going to flirt around in that bubble area throughout the year. But getting Simas and Jizzle right, and Simas did it last game, and he did it today. Jizzle finally I feel like he broke through that mental block that he had. And if he can keep that up, I think this team can absolutely beat Texas Tech. If those two guys can perform the way that we thought they would before the season, because you know what you're going to get out of Dillon Mitchell. He's going to be all over the place. Dan Skillings is going to be all over the place. Those are the two guys, man. They're the keys. And I think we might have saw a little get-right game for those two today. And I think that's going to bode great. And if they don't play well, we're not beating Texas Tech, right? If you don't get good games from Jizzle and Simas, we're not going to beat Texas Tech, and we're not going to beat quad 1 teams.
Interaction. Chat, help me out here. Play of the game. It's brought to you by our sponsor, Awakenings Coffee. They got a location in Hyde Park Square in Cincinnati. Wes Miller, a confirmed coffee drinker at Awakenings Coffee. So go to Awakening. So maybe you can run into Wes and give him a golf clap and say, hey, coach, we said bring the pitchforks, that if you don't make the tournament, we want you fired. But for now, it's good to see you drinking the coffee. How about 2 wins in a row? We're drinking the Kool-Aid right now on Wes Miller, as once again, he had this team ready to play. And since he pretty much goes wire to wire with the victory, but plays of the game from the chat. Mine today is going to be the alley-oop from CJ Frederick to Dillon Mitchell with about 4 minutes to go off a set play. Just a thing of beauty. The former Pacelli Panther, CJ Frederick, who's now about 25 years of age. I've been waiting for his signature moment in the Bearcats uniform, and that to me was it. Just a smart play, great pass, finds Mitchell under the hoop for the slam. That to me is our Awakenings Coffee play of the day. Houdini, what are you going with?
I'll go with Dillon Mitchell, with about 40 seconds left at a windmill dunk to seal it. I'll go with that. That's a Sports Center top 10 play. Chuck, I do want to credit to Wes. I think he coached a good game. But if you remember, they cut it. We had it at 17. They cut it to 11. Back-to-back threes. Wes calls a timeout. He trots out a lineup of Day Thomas, CJ, Josh Reed, Dillon Mitchell, and Arrington Page. And then they proceed to cut it to, I believe, 4 points with that lineup. And he left them in for way too long. I don't know why he continues to tinker and throw these lineups up that if you just stare at it, you go, how the hell is that going to be able to compete? We have essentially one shooter on the floor with CJ Frederick. You could argue Day, if he's open, sure, he can make a three. Then you got Josh Reed, Dillon Mitchell, and Arrington Page. Like, how is the spacing ever going to work? So that's like my one qualm with Wes Miller today was like, why do that and let Arizona State get back into the game? I feel like anybody watching the game is like, what are we doing with this lineup?
He ran that lineup out in the first half, though, and they held their own.
It was fine.
It was fine. They held their own. They expanded on the lead, so he felt confident and comfortable in running it back out there. Let's check this out, man. I'm on the KenPom rankings right now, where as of today, Cincinnati entered 40th in the KenPom, right behind Memphis and right in front of SMU. Teams that we have coming up in the near future that are right around us, we got West Virginia at 43 in the net. We got BYU at 44. We've already played Villanova, who's 50, lost. Xavier, who's 51, won. Dayton, who's 60, won. Arizona State, who's now 64, won. Colorado, 91. So there's a lot of like 50 to 90 Cincinnati wins right now. We do have a loss to Kansas State.
Is that updated right after is that updated immediately? Like, I feel like, isn't it a lag? Shouldn't we actually go higher than that?
We should be a little bit higher. Let's see if they've updated. I mean, they're good, man. They are good.
Xavier just beat Marquette. So
give me 2 seconds.
Though we're gonna jump up a little bit even more, I believe.
Yeah. So Xavier with a good win over Marquette. Xavier's one of those teams where now that they have Fremantle healthy too, I could see them making a little push in the Big East and sneaking into the NCAA tournament, which would just be devastating to me. But there are a crop of Bearcats fans out there that would say, let's see Xavier win so it improves our chances. I'd love to just make the tournament and not have to rely on a Xavier home win to get us in there. But hey, to each their own with everyone. But Cincinnati's next game coming up. It's against Texas Tech. They are 14th right now in the net. It would be a quad one win. This is the opportunity for Cincinnati to really have that statement win on their resume that they can point to come March. Like, we beat all these teams that we were supposed to. Arizona State, Colorado. Let's take care of Oklahoma State. Let's beat TCU. Let's take down Kansas State when we get them again. Let's try to take down Baylor at home. But if you can beat Texas Tech, win your third game in a row, and you're heading into a BYU-Utah stretch where you could realistically split and feel okay about our chances. Like, this is just a massive game. It's not going to hurt you if you lose. But, man, we know the committee cares about who have you beaten. Texas Tech, after their dominant win today over Arizona, would be a very, very good win.
And it'll just make you feel a whole lot better as a fan. If we win against Texas Tech, I'm starting to feel like, okay, this might be the team that we thought they were. They had a bad stretch. we'll let it slide, dug a hole of 0-4, and then all of a sudden you're sitting at 3-4. Now you're starting to you say, hey, we're in the mix again. Because right now it's like we're fighting for a play-in spot as an 11 seed and losing to Temple by 15 or something in the first round. If we can beat Texas Tech, then I think that's solidified, hey, we're actually a legitimate team. The confidence will be through the roof at that point. And then you got 2 winnable games at BYU, at Utah. Like I said, the schedule gets a lot easier after that 4-game stretch that we just saw, the gauntlet. So, yeah, if you beat Texas Tech, I might even delete my breaking news, Wes Miller's ass tweet if we beat Texas Tech.
You know what I'll be doing if we beat Texas Tech? I'll be playing this once again.
Yeah, baby. That's what I've been waiting for. He's back. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Yeah, man. How you doing?
It's the delirium at Kings Island, man. It's a roller coaster ride of a season. It always is. And I get too high. I get too low. I need to be somewhere in the middle. I need to take a lesson out of Eric Lilly's playbook. But today I'm high on life, folks. I feel absolutely fantastic. I watched a basketball game and wasn't disgusted with what I saw. Like, for the majority of that game, I was pretty excited with what I saw. And again, we can point to the fact that it's Arizona State shorthanded. It's Colorado shorthanded. But hey, man, this is a program that hasn't won home games in football nor basketball. We've came on so many of these shows and said, God bless, what are we doing? Although I will say this, we took down Arizona State at home in football, and just the season was a disaster from that point on. So hopefully this is not any sort of foreshadowing. But look, since he got the hardest part of the schedule away, this is the opportunity where you can really make a run, get a stranglehold on the season, and potentially get back into the top 25 if you were to beat Texas Tech, BYU, Utah, and then, take down West Virginia at home, Central Florida on the road. Like, you could stack up a little 7-8 game winning streak here. I know what you're saying, Hudson. Easy now, one at a time. We're struggling to win games at home, but life happens fast. Win or lose, tank or rise, it happens fast. Look at that 2012 Cincy team. I use them as a perfect example, man. They were basura to start the season, and they just started winning games. And next thing you know, they're beating Marquette at home. They're beating Georgetown at home, and they're beating UConn on a Sean Kilpatrick last second 3. And they're just starting to take down teams that, at the time were much better programs than Cincy. And let's get back to that point where we just start winning all these home games, regardless of who comes in.
Well, that's why college basketball is such a beautiful sport. I mean, teams can change so drastically throughout a season. It's like you're not even watching the same roster at all. Like for example, Dayton's beating Marquette, they're beating UConn by 30, and then they're losing to George Mason by 25 at home. Like it's like night and day how teams can change throughout a year. So if that was our bad stretch, we did it in December and early January, whatever it was. There's plenty of season left to get right. And we've seen it before with UC teams. It could happen again. But right now, we beat 2 back-to-back, Big 12 wins. No doubt about it. It's good. It's Colorado and Arizona State. They're not the top teams in the conference by any stretch.
We sharpied them as W's before the season.
Right. Absolutely. What if we can beat Texas Tech, then it's like, okay, I think this team is legit. And then, if we beat Texas Tech and beat BYU, we will be ranked. We'll get a little number next to our name again, and we know how much that helps our mentals.
It's huge for us. And look, you said this team is legit. The offense is not. Like, we just have to accept the fact that these are going to be ugly games. Remember that Cincy team, Kilpatrick and Kashmir Wright, and actually, I don't even think Kashmir was on the team. It was just Kilpatrick. It was Justin Jackson. It was Titus Rubles. It was that nasty team that relied on one player and just had a bunch of guys that could. Actually, Jackson was pretty good on that team. But basically, there were like 4 Cincinnati teams in a row that was that way, to where you were never really fully satisfied with the W because it was so ugly. You hate winning in the 60s, but we got to lean back into that, folks. Like, We scored 40 points last Saturday. This is who we are. We're grinders. We're going to play hard. We're going to use our physicality, and we're hopefully going to hit enough shots to stay in the game and sneak a few down the stretch. We're not Iowa State. We're not Houston. We're not Arizona. We're not Kansas. But could we be Texas Tech? Could we be on the same playing field as West Virginia? Could we be on the same playing field as UCF and BYU? We're going to find out because we have all those teams coming up. One thing we have found out is at the moment, we are slightly better than Arizona State, Colorado. I still think Kansas State deserves a redo, which we'll get in March. I think we can beat that team. And I would hope that we're better than Oklahoma State and maybe even TCU and Utah, the Madsen twins. So we will see about that. Dan Skillings in the game today had some more Inspector Gadget plays. I'll tell you what, rebounding, he's got to be one of the best rebounders in the country for a guy with his size. I mean, I don't know what the total numbers were today. Let's look it up right now for Dan. He had only 4, 2 of them offensive rebounds. But I'll tell you what, he makes some loud rebounds where he just gets in there and kind of snags that thing with, his 7-foot wingspan, just snatches it with his fingertips. And you're like, how the hell did he get that one? What'd you think of Dan today, who finished in the game 3 of 11, missed his outside shots, kind of coming back down to earth as far as 3-point shooting? We didn't think he was a good 3-point shooter. He's had a very good stretch. But overall, I mean, 12 points, 6 of 8 from the free throw line. That's huge from Dan.
Yeah, just getting to the line for this team, I think is huge. We're like 330th in free throw percentage and like 335th in free throw attempts. So just a guy getting to the line 8 times means that he's attacking the rim, which we desperately need as a team. I thought he played a pretty bad game. To his standards, at least. He had his Inspector Gadget layups. Sorry if you can hear that. My dog's going ballistic. He's fired up about the win. He was taking some pretty horrendous shots. And sometimes he makes them, so it's hard to say, hey, don't take that shot. But he was around the rim, just chucking, not even looking at the rim, just chucking it up behind his head, getting blocked. Just kind of an overall not a great performance. He only played 25 minutes, too. That's probably one of his lowest minute totals in quite some time for Dan Skillings. But he got picked up by other guys, and he still finished with 12 and 4, and he had some big rebounds, even though it was only 4. So you got to like what you saw from Dan Skillings. But I think the real story here is, and we've been saying it, I did not anticipate that the identity of this team was going to be their defense. We're a top 10 defense, man. I don't care who we're playing. I mean, we gave up 55 points to Kansas.
We said it week 2 of the season. We got on a show against one of these bad teams. I think it was after Alabama State, or it was after it may have been the first game of the year, Pine Bluff, where we put up like 100 points. And I specifically told you, and I teetered with my opinion as the season went along, but I specifically told you after game 1, like, this is what this team's identity is going to be. It's going to be length. It's going to be toughness. It's going to be rebounding, their ability to switch. Their ability to guard pretty much every position. The only thing that kills us is a player like Quaintance, which we're going to see more of in the Big 12 this year. Someone down low that just can, body up Aziz, essentially. Because Aziz is a lot of things. But to me, what he isn't is a dog. I don't think so. And people may argue with me. I think he's a little bit of glue. He's someone that doesn't tempt you to drive down the lane and just affect shots from his size standing there alone. But when people do get in the paint, he blocks some shots. Sure, he had 3 today, but there are plenty of times where weak side rebounds, whatever it may be, Aziz is nowhere to be found.
Yeah, well, what Aziz isn't is thick with 3 C's, as the kids say. He's a skinny guy. So when he plays a grown man who is actually 17, like Quaintance, he struggles because he gets bodied. He gets physically bullied in the paint. And there's not a whole lot of guys like that, but we will run into a few, at least in Big 12 play. So you got to kind of rally around him and have some help side defense. But, at the end of the day, we got the W, Chuck. We got the W. And the fact that you're like, I knew this team's identity would be defense after we played Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Morehead State.
I'll go run back the tape. I'll go run back the tape. And I will gladly sit here and tell the public that just joined the show that I did say that Jizzle James was head of the NBA after this year and has the ceiling of being the next Ja Morant. Like, I've said some asinine things on this show. I own up to it all. But when I have a good take, like I did week 1 when I said it's going to be defense, this team's going to win ugly, I would like credit for that, Houdini.
We thought this offense was going to be explosive. Did you not agree? Because I thought we were all saying it. We're like, I can't remember the last time we've got shooters everywhere. We got so much talent on the offense.
I think that was you and Niehaus. I think I had a stretch of about a week where I didn't do the shows, and Niehaus came in and convinced the entire world that this was the best offensive team in the country. So I'm going to put that on Nick.
Okay. Fair enough. Chuck, you're right. You're a savant. You saw us before I did, but I did not anticipate we were going to rely on our defense, and that's really going to turn into our offense. But here we are, and I'm fine with it. And today wasn't as ugly as like the Colorado game, for example. We actually had some stretches offensively where we looked competent, and then we went on like a 8-minute stretch where we didn't score a field goal. So I think that's just going to happen with this team and this roster, and we just got to deal with it. Yeah,
which is fine. If we can go on the 16-0 runs, the 9-0 runs, or whatever, then we can weather the storm a little bit better when we go the inevitable 5-6 minutes without not only a field goal but a clean look at the bucket, and our best offense becomes the Day Thomas pull-up, which was pretty silky in the game today. At least for 2 of them, he was 2 of 6 from the floor. He had 6 points, but Day did have a couple there. I think even at the end of the first half, maybe where he pulled up, and knocked it in there for the 12-2 run. A couple more things I want to get to. We're going to end with Mick Cronin, who went on an incredible rant. He's making his way on the show quite a bit because he's one of the hottest guys in basketball right now in terms of sound bites that will someday go on the Smithsonian. But I want to ask you about the Icy Whites, man. Since he went with the antithesis of their black cat uniforms, where you know what they look like. They're 3-0 in those black cats. They went with the Icy Whites today, with the Cincy, with the Y. Great uniforms. They're now 4-0 in these things. Your thoughts overall as you compare them to the blocks?
They're awesome, man. Like I said on Twitter, I was like, it would be criminal if we lost wearing these jerseys. You just can't lose wearing them. They're 4-0 now with the black cats and these icy, whatever they call them. Maybe we just keep wearing these suckers, man, because those are some really clean looking jerseys, man. And it's hard to screw up with UC and their color combo, even though we're not even showing any red in this. It's hard to make a UC jersey look bad. And we saw it, I guess, when was it Under Armour or Adidas, where they put the camo.
Under Armour was fine. Adidas was, oof.
Yeah.
And we had some cool ones, like the Lance Stevenson team and the team in the regular season, the Sweet 16 team in the regular season, obviously. I mean, whether you like those Zumba ones that we were wearing to go to the Sweet 16 against Ohio State, that's up to you. I thought the gray ones that we wore against Texas in that tournament were actually pretty slick. The black ones were like a little orange. They were interesting, but I could fuck with them a little. When it comes to the ones that they had the next year with Kashmir Wright when they lost to Creighton, those were absolutely just disgusting. Those were zebras. And then the following year, they had the sleeves with like Jermaine Sanders and company, and those were ugly too. We didn't even get to see the black ones, I think, because we were the top seed in the American tournament, and then we lost to Harvard in the first round. And then the year after that, they ran back the sleeves when we lost to Kentucky, and those were gross too. So yeah, Adidas gave us some tough ones there, but there are a crop of Cats fans out there that, for nostalgic purposes alone, probably love those things. I was not one of those guys. Any final thoughts from the game today before we get into a little Mick Cronin?
No, man. I mean, we won the game. We had some good stretches. We saw Simas and Jizzle put the ball in the hoop. Signs are we're trending up. We're trending up. Got to beat Texas Tech, and then we can really talk about what this team can be.
Mick Cronin, one of the greatest quotes you will ever hear. In his press conference last night, he had about 9 of them, but for time purposes, we're just going to get into one. He talked about how losing basketball games just makes him sick. It makes him depressed. He hates everything. He pointed to NBA coaches. He's like, how can Steve Kerr or Ime Udoka, whoever it is, how can they lose a game and shake hands, get to the locker room, say, all right, everyone, practice tomorrow at 10, and then go out and get a steak dinner and enjoy themselves? Mick Cronin said, quote, verbatim. After a loss, I can't eat, I can't sleep, I can't taste food. I'm literally ready to jump off a bridge. I mean, Christ, the Pitino coaching tree is freaking wild. Last year, Rick said he wanted to die of frostbite after a loss to Creighton. He's like, I literally want to die of frostbite. It's wild. And my favorite thing about this was after he said that, I can't eat, I can't sleep, I can't taste food. At the very end of the presser, a reporter asked if there was kind of a silver lining to all the travel, because UCLA obviously has to go east a lot. And at the same time, the teams have to go west. And if you remember, when Mick Cronin had to go west for the NCAA tournament to take on UCLA, he'd complain about that, right? He'd find a way to complain, oh, these West Coast trips, it's not fair, it's too tough, whatever it may be. And this time, obviously, since he's on the West Coast, he uses the opposite exaggeration. It says, we've seen the Statue of Liberty twice in the last week. We've seen the Capitol building. We're all over the place, and we got to go back. We got to go back. And then at the very end, as he's arguing with this reporter, he says, he cuts him off. He does his typical up, cuts him off. And at the end, he says, I got to go eat. I got to go eat, man. I'm like, Mick, you just said you can't taste your food. What the fuck are you talking about? One of the all-time great rants.
Oh, it's so good, man. It's so, so good. Yeah, like that kid asked him, like, do you think there's any correlation with the Big Ten teams having to travel to West Coast? He's like, wait a minute. Is that a serious question?
He asked if he was a plant. Right now? He said, is that a planted question? Are you a plant?
And then he made up, and then he's like, when he was talking about seeing the Statue of Liberty, he accidentally said the Eiffel Tower. He's like, I've seen the Eiffel Tower. I mean, I've seen the Statue of Liberty twice. Okay. He goes, you know how much that mentally breaks our kids, man? He goes, they got to see a statue. He's like, we got to see a Statue of Liberty again in 3 weeks. He's like, you think we want to do that? He's like, we're losing 3 hours. It's ridiculous. He goes, you're not being serious. Are you a clown? Where's your clown makeup? And I'm like, this guy is just a soundbite waiting to happen. He's one of the last old school guys that's still coaching. And trust me, I know Wes, when he loses, he can't sleep and he can't taste food either. But he'll never say that on the podium. He'll never say, I'm going to go find the nearest bridge. Like, yeah, I'm going to do the presser on the Roebling. Like, he's never going to say that shit. So it is what it is. But Mick Cronin sound bites are top tier. I do miss him, those sound bites. He's always complaining about something. Every week he's complaining about something new.
Oh, Ralph from Fox 19 used to have like a running joke where he would get them worked up in the one-on-ones, like after the Iowa game. I'm pretty sure, actually, this is according to sources, he asked Mick, like, hey, are you going to sleep tonight after they lost the Iowa game? And Mick said, I don't know. Call me in 3 days. And I'm pretty sure Rao actually called him like 3 days and left him a voicemail. You sleeping, Mick? So good stuff there from our guys over at Fox 19. Best in the business, best in the market, in my opinion. So Cincinnati, the number 8 defense in the country, the hard hat mentality. They've still got it, man. They still got it. They're 12-5. They're 2-4 in the conference. And Texas Tech is coming up next. That's really all I got. Cincy right now, the first 4 out, according to Lenardi, you beat Texas Tech, and we're right back on the right side of the bubble, and we'll get that March music going, man. So for the final time, I'm going to play it one more time, Houdini.
Baby, that's what I've been waiting for. He's back!
That's just a big-time W, my friends. That's just a big-time W, and it's only big time because it's a win we had to get. At least for this Saturday, the Bearcats are back. Chuck Walter, Houdini, thank you, everyone, for making this a part of your day. You can find it on YouTube, wherever you get your audio podcasts. Send us home, Houdini. Send us home.
I'm bringing out the big red glasses that are about 4 feet wide if we beat Texas Tech, brother. Thanks, everybody in the chat. I know people have been commenting. We've been trying to incorporate those a little bit more. Nobody showed up for the link. Nobody wanted to get on video. Next time, but we beat Texas Tech.
We got to figure this out. We do have to figure this out because when we were having the Twitter spaces, one of the burners commented on there and they said the spaces are great. They're interactive. Like, yeah, the YouTube shows, they're great too, but we want the interaction. That's why I said, hop in. We've got the link in the chat for you to hop in and talk about the Bearcats. But it is intimidating. To come on the show with a couple of professional broadcasters. I get it. It's intimidating. But there is a way that we can turn off your camera. You can just turn off your camera and come in with your name And, it's John from Deer Park. What's on your mind, John? So that's the goal of this thing. I mean, to get it into more of a calling show and do this thing for 3 hours instead of 45 minutes to where we have angry fans calling in. I mean, that's where the money's at, Houdini.
Right. I would love if we ended up doing the thing where they warp your voice too, and it looks like it's one of those cartel shows where it's like all dark and you just hear like, so how about the defensive effort from Dillon Mitchell today? Let's do something like that. Let's get creative with it. If nobody wants to show their face on camera, I mean, the fact that I'm doing it, look at me, right? Nobody really wants to see this, but I'm doing it for the people. So next time, if we beat Texas Tech, we just saw Stay Crazy said he would get on. So hopefully we do that. Cincy Light for Sean, please, says he'll get on too if he downloads
like
whatever
this?
app he's talking about.
You mean change their voice like this? I think I could.
100%.
The Cincinnati Bearcats improved to 67-60 on the season with a win over Arizona State. You have to love that, everyone. And if we don't like this one, we can go with, let's try this.
How does this sound? I got a megaphone. We got, that's not what we want. That's not the chime.
How about this one? Oh, yeah. That sounds great. So, we could do this one.
So, look, we have the options, fellas. It sounds like people are on board.
Options. You can sound like this if you'd like to. I mean, at the end of the day, we'll make you sound however you want.
If you want to sound like a monster, I'll make you sound like a fucking monster.
Technology, folks. It truly is a beautiful thing. Are you just going to run through every one of them? Now you're muted, Chuck. Now you're muted. Nobody can hear you. It's probably for the best.
Everyone, go Bearcats. 67-60 win over Arizona State. See ya.